Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I recently received a message from a former regular client of mine with whom I did a lot of birth chart work because that's mainly what I do. And she had a question about transits. She was looking up a particular day where things really hit her hard. And she wanted to understand essentially the principle, the unchanging principle behind what transits are, how to approach them. Because she's already familiar with my philosophy, which I believe is correct, that you should learn your birth chart first. You should learn about how you are and who you are in spite of what's happening externally. And you should therefore think and speak and act in spite of your external circumstances most of the time, because that is in closest alignment with your authentic self. And that's ultimately what, if you delay it, you're going to have to rediscover and learn a lot of lessons the hard way about throughout your life until you learn how to be yourself in spite of externals. So being that she wasn't just trying to get free shit, she wanted me to give her the baseline philosophical principle underlying what transits are and what they represent. I answered her question and I didn't charge her for it. Okay, so her question was really that. I really don't understand much about transits. I had forgotten that I looked up my transits on a particular day a while back that was super intense for me. I just saw the screenshot and remembered that time. Does anything stand out to you? So without going into the particulars of her own chart, there was a lot that stood out to me. She had several exact conjunctions from transit planets to her birth chart planets on this particular day, and some corresponding hard aspects as a result. So just going to read what my response was, and take it for what it is. Hopefully you're not someone who is overemphasizing transits in your astrological work. Look, you can spend your entire life trying to understand all the nuances of your own birth chart, and you can gain a lot from that on a day-to-day basis in that process. And essentially, I think that's what people should do above all. I mean, until you have a really solid baseline understanding of your birth chart and how everything works together. It might feel like a lot of things in your birth chart are working against each other in the form of hard aspects and whatnot, but really these just give us lessons for learning on how to manage these parts of ourselves that don't flow so easily with the other parts. Okay, so it is one complete system, our birth chart, and the more conscious we are, the more we can make that work to our advantage rather than just use it as an excuse and validation of our bad behavior and all of our troubles. Okay, so this was my response to her. The main things to look for transit-wise. That is, if you already have a good understanding of your birth chart and its aspects. Okay, focus on aspects. If you don't understand your aspects, especially the ones that are within 3 degrees or so orb, you don't understand your birth chart. Individual placements are not enough, people. Okay, they are connected to lots of other things. Till you understand those connections and how those connections are connected to other connections, you don't get your birth chart. Okay? It's all about the aspects, baby. All right, so if you have an understanding of your birth chart on that level, the main things to look for transit-wise are exact conjunctions between transit planets and your birth chart planets, of which she had a few. Not going to get into those. And any corresponding aspects, namely hard aspects, which are obviously easy to spot. So for example, her Mars has a couple of birth chart squares to it. So the transit planets that were conjunct her Mars will also be squared to those same planets in the birth chart. Similarly, her North Node was square to her Venus in her birth chart. So her transit Saturn, which was on her North Node, was also in a square to her birth chart Venus. All right? So these are all very difficult to deal with individually. But essentially, a transit represents a window of time in which you experience that transit planet in that particular part of your birth chart that it's moving through, and whatever challenges already exist in that part of the chart will be amplified, tested, or alleviated, depending on what's already connected to that house, that planet that's in a conjunction with that transit planet, etc. And the peak of that window, comes during the exact conjunction day. Now, typically, you start to feel the effect when the transit planet is applying to that part of your chart, when it's not quite exactly conjunct or exactly square to a particular planet at that point. And sometimes if you're really conscious and you start to deal with everything that's coming up in that application of the transit, then the actual exact transit day will more so give you a feeling of release of all those tensions and difficulties and intensities. Sometimes, especially if you're less conscious in this process and you're pushing away all these difficult things that are really just building up in the application process, then shit's really going to hit the fan on that exact conjunction. But regardless, as it's separating, you may still feel the effects of it for better or for worse. And it still provides you with a window of time to tie up all the loose ends that transit represents. Or it may just give you ultimate release and fall away. Okay? But my main thing here is that you want to master your birth chart first. And transits are really just reminders or indicators about the themes that are going on right now. And if you're focusing too much on that and not enough on your birth chart, which is how you are in spite of those external circumstances, then spiritually speaking, you're just being too externally focused. You know, you're outsourcing your own individual authority, and you're granting that authority to the world, and you're leaving yourself vulnerable to just being a puppet to external circumstances. Okay? So master the birth chart first. Transits are secondary at best, if at all necessary. If you reach a certain level of consciousness, you don't need astrology at all. You know, maybe you've learned all your life's lessons through experience, and that's good enough. And you know who you are through that, through how you've worked through those struggles. And you can move forward in spite of any kind of information or any external circumstances that arise, because you're grounded within yourself and within your own self-authority. And that's all I try to instill in people when I'm giving a reading, really. I use the birth chart as a set of symbols to explain how to do that. But at the end of the day, you don't really need it. You are who you are what you are, in spite of all of that mumbo jumbo. So hope you enjoyed this video and found it to be helpful. See you guys in the next one. Cheers.